Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kingdom Couple channel, and thank you so much for pressing play. And if you are here for the very first time, why not do the right thing and subscribe? Where's the subscribe, my love? Yeah, and make sure you subscribe. And if you're a returning member of this amazing platform, thank you so much for your support. As you can see, today I'm not alone. I'm with my beautiful wife. Ooh.
Hello family, hello baby.
Hi my baby.
It's such a pleasure to host you today, and it's such a pleasure to just be speaking to you today. We are so excited. You know, we've got amazing things lined up. We've been through an amazing season in our lives, and hey.
Yeah, now we've really been in an amazing season in our lives, and we really just appreciate also the time that we've just had to spend together.
Yes.
You know, the lockdown really did help, and it has strengthened so much of our marriage, our love. I think we got to really just spend so much beautiful time together.
And plan our future. I think it's very important as a couple to sit down and just make plans. And you know, sometimes we assume that we've got a plan for our lives, but we haven't really talked about it. So it's important to always go over and go through your plans and go through your vision and how far you are. So we've had that moment, and it's amazing because you come back to the same page even if you were drifting worlds apart, because you can live with someone and still really not know that person.
And be in a different world.
Yes, and be in a different world and not know what they're thinking. So I think this lockdown has really just taught us how to be honest with each other, like raw with each other, and understand that, you know what, we do not need to be perfect, but we are just taking it one day at a time, and our goals and our visions don't need to be rushed, but they just need to be aligned.
Most
yes.
Definitely.
Always there with the right words.
Of course. And I think one of the greatest thing about this lockdown is that it has revealed so much leakages in marriages. You know, some marriages couldn't survive the lockdown. You know, because of a lot of things that have been happening. People have lost their jobs. People are in a situation of where they are very anxious about the future, uncertain about the future, whether it's your workplace or it's your financial well-being, or it's in your marriage, your relationship. You know, this lockdown has really introduced us to a new phase of pressure, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and, you know, financially. And, you know, we have had a lot of people go through depression, and as you may know, that we really advocates of mental health. My wife is a strong champion that speaks strongly about depression battles and everything that we, you know, have had to fight through together for us to be healthy mentally. And this lockdown has really introduced a new world of mental battles, my love.
It has. And today we're going to be speaking about just an uncomfortable phase of depression.
Most definitely. I think we, at this particular moment where, you know, depression has no race, it has no gender, it has no title, it has no position, you know, and I feel like this is a beautiful time for, you know, people like yourself, people in your caliber, of your caliber, to be able to speak, because I feel like this is a challenge or a battle that has been, you know, embarrassing for some people. For people to come out and say, you know, I have been depressed, or I am depressed. It's like, you know, this is what I'm going through. It's like a shame for people to be able to share it. But, you know, if people can be able to hear it from each and every one of us, to say, not all days are the same, and not every day is spring day. We all go through a winter, and these are some of the practical experiences that you've been having. And, you know, just having to hear someone else's story and understanding that what you are going through, someone else out there is also going through.
Yes, and depression is a manageable illness, and it is you can conquer depression, but we just need to be open about it and be able to be thorough and honest about the things that we are going through. I mean, sometimes even in our Black community, we speak about depression like these days it is much better, but people speak about depression like it's just another illness that how can you be depressed? You've had everything you want in your life. You sleep with your stomach full. It's not about things. It's not about practical things. It's about there's an unseen substance that you go through in your mind, a battle and a demon that you have to fight every day for you to just wake up and live. We've had big celebrities, being depressed, and you'd wonder, why would a person be depressed when they have everything? It's a battle. It's a mental battle. It's a mental battlefield, and you are fighting with this unknown thing that you can't even explain and put into words, but it is conquerable, and if you have the right information and the right tools, you can and you will beat it. So don't give up, don't lose hope.
And I've just maybe let's just get into a few questions where maybe we can be able to clarify and just bring context to the entire discussion. When did you discover that you were depressed, or when did you start feeling depressed and getting to a point where you really was on low energy?
Of course, I mean, it's not something that I just woke up and I was aware of, and I sort of thought that it's something that I'm just gonna go through and just get over.
It was just a phase.
It was just a phase. But I remember in my early childhood, I was like 9 and I tried to strangle myself with a green sock that I had in my wardrobe. And looking back at that scenario, because there were moments where I just didn't even want to go to school, and I felt really sick, and I'd pretend that I was sick just so that I won't be able to go to school and mingle with other children. And I think it just all started with wanting to be accepted and not getting that type of acceptance that I needed. It created some self-esteem problems, and then that's when I created a hole for myself, a place where I can protect myself and protect my space, because there was so much of resistance when it comes to me. Not that people didn't like me, but people weren't as open to me. And at that moment, I just really wanted to be accepted. For an example, when people were playing, as a little kid, you're like, okay, can I please play with you? No, we're already full, and you don't feel part of those people. And little things, that we look at in our children today, like bullying, things that we look at today, like, a person just saying a comment to your child, that really affects the psychology of your child. And your parents being absent to you, because I remember I did have my parents, but they were not as present in my life, and that created a lot of doubt within me. That created a lot of questions about my identity and who I was. It created a lot of questions about where do I fit in society. Whether we like it or not, our kids ask those questions. Where do I fit in? Our kids want a home. Our kids want a place. Even adults want a place that they can call home. They want acceptance. They want love. And when you don't get that, and when you are not taught how to embrace yourself and how to love yourself, you find yourself being enclosed in this situation where you can't even express yourself, and where you feel like you are the only person that understands you. And that becomes toxic, because you cannot even open up your heart for God. You can't even open up your heart for other people. And that place where you are just yourself and you're having these toxic thoughts make you a danger to your own self. So you become a danger to your own self.
Sure. I love a few points that you're just raising from there as I'm listening. Depression doesn't necessarily just happen to for you it was when you are 9, and there are people who are in their 40s, who are in their 30s, in their 40s, who are really depressed at the moment, and you are highlighting some basics that really could direct us to the source of why people get so depressed. One of it you are mentioning is identity. In a way, you feel like life has become so unfair on a person, and they begin to question their identity. We have people now running to church, to go and find their identity in God. We have people who go to, they slaughter and do these traditional things, try to reintroduce themselves to their ancestors and all these kind of things, because at that particular moment, a person has begun to question their identity. And when you question your identity, you are not really sure where you are going. And the other thing, you just spoke about is that lack of inspiration from others, where you feel like you are the only one who understands yourself. Because, you lack those voices from outside being able to tell you what you want to hear. Those inside conversations that we have with yourself. And maybe just a follow-up question. When you realized you were there, and I know that, you've had to go through all this for so many years, what were your coping mechanisms? What were the things that you engaged into that probably were related to how you were feeling that particular moment?
There are things, I'm really embarrassed about, that I talk about, and I'm just, as you're saying that, I'm remembering an instance where I was in grade 7, where I took the ibuprofen. It was a green and orange, and I literally overdosed on them, and I thought that I wasn't really gonna wake up in the morning, and nobody actually knew that I took those, because even my mom didn't know. I took like the whole tray. I do not know how it happened that I didn't react or something, but the next day when I woke up, I had chicken pox.
I usually call it attempted self-assassination.
Yeah, and I woke up the next day and I had chicken pox, and I was so surprised that I even woke up, because my intention was not to wake up. That's why I say, honestly, there is a God in heaven, because nothing could have protected me from that. I've seen people being admitted to hospitals and, having to suck out the pills from the stomach, and I had a whole tray, but nothing happened, and I didn't even tell my mom. I just slept throughout the whole night, and I woke up that afternoon, the afternoon, and, I just had these rash and these chicken pox. And I was just like, how did that happen? And another thing, which brings us to another coping mechanism that I myself, and I always say I'm going to be embarrassed about it, but it's things that we have to talk about, like self-hurt. And self-hurt is something that people engage in, people that are depressed, people that are not mentally stable and mentally balanced, and that's why I say, depression is an illness, and it should be treated like one, and it should be treated as something that you can manage and conquer with the help of psychologists, with the help of your spouse, the help of your family, and with the help of a few medication if you go that far, but I started just hitting myself, started cutting myself, started banging my head against walls, and to an extent where I wouldn't be satisfied if I do not bleed or I do not feel pain. And the thing is, when you're doing that, you do not feel the pain, and you want to carry on with it until you feel the pain, and then when that happens, it's like you feel a sense of relief. I said in my post when I was speaking about self-hurt that it's like you want to see the pain, because you haven't met this thing that you're fighting with.
It's not a physical pain.
Yes, it's not a physical pain, and because it's so much in the mind, at least if I feel something on my flesh, then I can be able to express how I feel, and that's how it happens. And then you find yourself in that situation and punching yourself and bleeding and hitting yourself and cutting myself, and I was like, no. And then as soon as that happens, when I feel the pain, then there was a sense of relief that, okay, and some other people do it when they've done a mistake. when they're angry,
when they're hard on themselves,
when they're angry. And it's something that helped me cope. And as soon as I did that, I was able to sleep, or to just numb whatever I was feeling, because now I was concentrating on the pain I made myself feel. So it wasn't really, then I could escape my mind and be able to connect with the pain of the flesh that I had created at that moment, which is toxic and which is bad. Sometimes I say, I'm so grateful that most of my scars have healed, because the things that I was doing to myself, they were bad, and I would have really been transfigured in my face or in my hands and my body. But when I look at myself, people would go like, no, you didn't do this to yourself. And I'm just so glad that I was able to heal from that, because it's something that I started in my early teenage years. Sure. And there was a moment where even my husband got really scared, and I was engaging in those things again, and he was just so taken aback. And it's been difficult. It has, and I'm not gonna say that.
Maybe just to come in there.
Yes.
What was, especially with the self-hate part, what brought you to a point where you're like, enough, I'm done?
With?
I'm not gonna hurt myself anymore.
I think it came when I had I always will refer back to my husband. When my husband made me aware of what I'm going through, because I didn't really see it as an illness. I've never really confessed that I am depressed or I'm not fine. But when my husband made me realize that I was sick, and we went to seek for help, that's when I realized, that this is what I am fighting with. And knowledge is powerful, because when you know the enemy that you are fighting,
yes,
even though you cannot see the enemy that you're fighting, but when you know. And I started reading books, and I started reading people that have been through those experiences. And the more I did that, is the more I became aware of the toxic things I was doing to myself. But other than that, and the source of it all, especially the source, because it doesn't just happen like that. It starts from somewhere. And I had to go back and deal with the demons and deal with the experiences that I've been through, so that I can be a better person. A lot of people didn't even know that I was going through this. Even today, some people may be watching and they'll be like, I've never really thought who's a Tembi, so yes, who could go through that, because I always maintain a smile, I always maintain a good appearance, and whenever I appear in front of people, you would really not tell if I was happy or sad or what. You just see me smiling and be like, oh, but this girl, she's such a happy girl, she's always smiling. And deep down, I was really just battling things that I couldn't express to anybody, until a person came in. And when you get married, without you even having control, your parts of you that you do not even expose to anybody are exposed to your spouse, because he becomes a part of you. And in that process of becoming one, he is able to see, and he even himself, he's able to feel your pain and be part. When you feel pain, he feels pain as well.
I think we usually talk about the situation, especially when the greatest highlight when you were in the house, and every time I think of that moment, it's always a realization of how much we take for granted the beautiful people that we have around us, until we get to that point. And although it's bad, I appreciate God that I had to go through that experience, because it gave me a different perspective and a value for who I have in my life. And I'm talking about the day where I literally I've heard her speak to me about attempting suicide. And I think on that particular day, where it all just became real. This thing of, I think we always share when we are talking about that. The few months of our marriage, I experienced how it is to go to bed with a person without a soul or with a broken soul, because that's what depression does. It affects your soul, where you are there but you don't feel alive. Things are happening for you but you don't feel alive. I mean, before everything and before I could get the context of what this depression is and what it can do to people, I would ask, just like, I mean, in our black families, but babe, you've got a job, your academics are going well, what's happening? Until I think I got to realize that you can exist without living. And I think, in our next segment, or in our next episode, we'll share deeper and more on how you really got to get to that level where you were depressed, and for you to be able to do so much suicidal attempts, and for you to be able to get to a level where today, you are able to inspire someone else. And I think what is more inspiring to me especially is your healing is so much brighter that you don't need to open a mouth for you to be able to speak. Just people looking at you, there is just so much that people get to open up their emotions and